Good early evening to everybody. My name is Peter Fleming. I am no longer Chairman of the Improvement and Innovation Board. But I am now Deputy Chairman of the Local Government Association. Thank you very much. It's not quite as exciting as it sounds. There are about 15 of us. I'm working my way through a number of scenarios of how I will take the crown from the current Chairman. Welcome to the revolution, everybody. I noticed with no sense of mirth that this conference is called something to revolution, and as I look upon the crowd in front of me, I see lots of revolutionaries in the room. And I sat through part of the last session. I understood about 10% of it, and that is, I think, pretty much part of the problem. In Budget 2015, specific reference to digital and the extension of the government digital services remit into local services was made. Some of us said wrong answer to the wrong question, but more of that later. And of course it's interesting to note that since that point, GDS is in some ways imploding. Anybody from GDS in the room? No surprise there. The background, over years of lots of programmes aimed at supporting councils with the implementation and mainstreaming of technology and digital tools, we've seen massive change. And different councils have responded in different ways. There's an LGA report snappily called Transforming Local Public Services Using Technology and Digital Tools and Approaches. You'll find that in the T aisle of your local library. Digital is now an all-pervasive presence, both for our residents and our businesses. We understand it is vital for increasing self-service and enabling staff to work more efficiently, both of which drive efficiency savings. But there is a need to do this. There needs to be an investment in infrastructure, both physical infrastructure, i.e. broadband and Wi-Fi, but also human infrastructure. There are 10.5 million adults in the UK who are digitally excluded, many of whom will be the high users of our public services. At a high level, the sector has had to agree what our core message about digital and local public services will be. What are the broad principles and priorities that underline this message? We have shown councils are using digital tools and technology effectively to deliver better services. Whilst we agree this will look different in different places, and some councils will be better than others. Ooh, controversial. I mean, the thing about local government is the key word is local. That means we aren't the same everywhere. We will be different. And if there's one thing that Westminster politicians hate more than anything else, is difference. What they want is they want something neat across the whole of the sector, and not just in digital. But none of that sounds much like a revolution to me. Sorry all, digital is a lot more than just websites, APIs, platforms and transactions, which has been, of course, the main focus of the GDS's work. For councils, it's about how we solve issues like adult social care. And here started my rant. Glasses off, place clicker down. If I was wireless, I would start pacing at this stage. GDS's main focus has been on multiple large-scale transactions, so the sorts of things that millions of us do, and a small change in each of those transactions will bring about huge savings. The problems facing local government is entirely the opposite. We have a small number of our residents who actually cost us the vast majority of our budgets. It is complex needs around things like adult social care, which will cause the financial tipping point in local government, not how we change small-scale transactions that we all do day in and day out. And if you need any evidence for this, just look at the work done by our county council colleagues and our unitary authorities, most of whom will be showing over the next 5 years all of their budgets will be spent on the burgeoning adult social care. So, you know, whilst it's nice to talk about how we can be more efficient around getting people to pay their council tax, or how we make it easier for them to pay their parking fines, what actually is the problem that none of us are really facing up to. Rant over. Press the button. It's not all about the new, but in many cases it's about what we do already better. So, for instance, this is my new fleet of refuse vehicles, and they are all GPS enabled, allowing us to actively change the routes and see what is better and work on the efficiencies that we can make. Whilst the mainstreaming of good practice is vital, the LGA's Digital Experts Programme being an example of this, councils should be allowed to determine what services they digitise, not having a government telling them all councils should digitise their top 10 transactions. Again, this will not bring about the savings and change that we need. Some of the proposed local GDS solutions will hold the best of the sector back. Top-down simply does not work. Universal credit, and any of you in the room that have worked on this will know that actually local government was excluded from the rollout of universal credit until, surprise, surprise, the government found it was quite complex and actually local solutions would be better. Local government set free from prescription will always come out with better solutions than a top-down model. Is it a revolution or is it a war? Sometimes it feels a lot more like the latter. The local government spending review submission, which I made in my previous role, makes a number of asks and offers. The need for closer working with government departments, particularly around health and social care, but also the need for us to invest in local government's leadership, both political and managerial, giving them the skills and confidence to tell the digital story, linked to real people, places and opportunities. Revolution? Not yet. Revolution? Maybe. Revolution only if we can engage people far beyond this room. Thank you.
One down in front.
I don't take any questions from Dominic from Future Go.
So just for that, we're taking a question from Dominic from Future Go. Have we got the microphone down front, please?
Two things. One is, as a person who's worked with 50 to 100 local authorities, I've really questioned how unique every local authority is, and would imagine that there are plenty of things that we can replicate. Otherwise, companies like Capita or Jadu or anyone else for that matter wouldn't exist. So why does the sector not take the lead in own solutions for itself, is number one. And number two, if we've got it covered, where are those world-class local public services online?
I mean, I'm not going to get into a row with you, Dominic. I mean, we've both sat in many rooms. The one particular room I'm thinking of was at Nesta, when actually the entire room, all bar about 3 people, were entirely the wrong people to be in that room having that conversation, because actually it was a room not unlike this, with people not unlike this, and surprise, surprise, halfway through, someone said, well, we all sat in a room just like this about 5 years ago, having the same conversation. So actually, my last point is the most important one. We need to evangelise beyond this room. We need to evangelise to the local government leaders, both the chief executive and the political leaders who are not sat in this room, to talk about how we move it on. And yes, there has been a lot of good work done, actually, Dominic, and much of it has been done by you, actually. So, you know, I don't think we should do local government down. But actually, the problems that we're facing are not the simple transactional problems that GDS set out to solve. They're the big-scale adult social care and health issues which actually nobody is facing up to. And that is the big challenge. We can waste all our time on APIs, on digitising services and on websites, but until we find a solution to adult social care, none of us will be around to work on those other things. Any more questions, Peter?
Anyone dare ask Peter any questions?
I'm sorry, Dominic, I really do like you.
Thank you. Appreciate your passion. Culver Ranger from Atos, but also spent 4 years running transport for the Mayor of London. Understand, you know, there are challenges in local government, but is part of the answer what's happening where local government is looking to maybe unify in terms of itself and its agencies and get a critical mass? Do you see that as a step towards a solution where local government is devising those sort of elements of business case that it can present to work with the private sector?
Okay, I call this the English disease. Nowhere else in the world, and I include in this China, do we have such a centralised idea of local government. How can it be that I can go to a city of 65,000 people in Somerville, just the other side of the river from Boston, and meet a mayor who is doing something unique for the residents that he serves? Right next to, you know, Harvard, MIT, all of that stuff going on, and I say to him, so are you working with other, you know, is there a uniform solution here? He goes, no, I've found a solution that is right for the people I serve. And actually, we are the only place in the world where we look to local government and say, actually, what we need is a standardised model, which is exactly the same, and a platform that's the same. And I mean, I've even heard of people saying, why isn't there just one website for local government? Well, actually, it wouldn't be local government anymore. We are already just agents of central government, and we need to break that down. And now is the time for that real revolution, because when there's no money, central government will start to lose its grip on local government, and it's our opportunity to break free, be unique, work together when it works for us, but actually, more importantly, work for our residents that we're elected to serve.
Just like to say, I do agree with you. I think you're right. I think the opportunity is there for local government, and it's good to see that 38 different local authorities have applied to put their bids in to say how much more power and devolvement that they want from central government. So I agree with you.
Sure, Peter will be around later on.
I'm running for a train.
Peter won't be around later on. So if you want to throw tomatoes at him as he leaves, but we have to move on and move on to our next presenter in this session, who is Noelle Godfrey from Cambridgeshire.
Thank you. And I think I'm going to have some things where I'd agree with Peter, and maybe some things that I would differ. But my views are my personal views, and I'm very happy to be challenged on them and to debate them. This is just my few thoughts on the matters. One thing I would agree with is that actually what we can't do now is simply share a few services, do a bit of demand management, and then everything's okay. It isn't. We know it isn't. And actually, interestingly, I know how bad it is, because this slide actually showed up in one of the breakout presentations. So that's obviously what we're all feeling at the moment. It is the scream. It is awful. The pressures are unrelenting. The demands just keep growing. You know, we've done all the easy things, and now we're down to the really, really hard stuff. But I do think that there's within that there are 5 different areas where local public services organisations can respond and where we can do things. We can actually make it through. We do need a bit of effort. And these 5 areas, there is something still there about efficiency. We are, all of us, we are doing all sorts of different things with shared services, and that can, in the right way, in the right place, bring economies of scale through aggregation. Just in Cambridgeshire, we've got so many different arrangements. We've got the local government shared services, where we're sharing back office services between Cambridgeshire, Northamptonshire, and a number of other authorities. We've got Cambridgeshire Public Services Network, which again aggregates network demand and service and contract management. So we've had good savings right across the piece as public sector organisations in Cambridgeshire for that. Some of the district councils are now joining up front office services, and as of today, actually, Cambridgeshire and Peterborough are now sharing chief exec. So I think we're trying every single different shared service arrangement, and we are saving significant amounts of money through that. But as I said, that in itself isn't enough. The other topic, the next along is around eligibility, and that's a very difficult thing for all of us working in the public sector with a strong public sector ethos and a strong background of caring for the most vulnerable in societies. We do have to start checking in relation to eligibility, drawing back where people can afford to pay, they need to pay, and that sort of what's happening right throughout the country is when services are non-statutory, they're being withdrawn. It's a necessary thing that we have to do. But then moving on, I think some of the other things are where we need to start turning the telescope around. We need to start thinking differently, and there's lots of opportunities. So one of those is about co-production, and I think gone is the time when we can sit sort of in our isolated splendour and say we know how to deliver services to people, we know how to do things to people, and this is what we're going to do. And there's a small example around co-production. Something that happened in Cambridgeshire a short while ago was that we were cutting bus subsidies. So potentially in some rural areas there were, the small number of bus services that were there already were going to be further cut. And then somebody thought, well, actually, instead of just saying, well, we're going to go cut, and this is the solution, there was an attempt to actually work with the communities to find a better solution. And so actually to co-produce the solution rather than to impose it. And not surprisingly, because these are the people who use the services, we actually got a much better outcome. Because when they understood the cost constraints in that specific area, they came up with solutions that were much more creative than the ones that we could have done. So there are some wins. That's a small example. We're not going to solve all the problems with a co-production approach, but we should have it there in our armoury. It can make a difference. And I think aligned to that is shared responsibility as well. We've got very used to, in this country, this notion that somebody does things for us. And actually, again, when you start switching that round, you can come up with different solutions. Again, just a really tiny little example. I was in one of the London boroughs recently, and I noticed that the municipal sort of flower beds looked a bit different. And the person I was with said, yeah, actually, this area, all of those sort of municipal flower beds have been turned over to London residents. They're growing vegetables and fruit in there, and it was amazing. They were all so well kept. And I would have assumed there would be vandalism, it would have looked awful, but actually people cared about it. And of course, the win-win is fresh fruit and vegetables, people getting a bit of getting outside, a bit of community action going on, and of course, importantly, the council didn't have to pay to maintain those services. So there's a lot we can do in terms of shared responsibility if we only try. And following on from that, I think we've heard quite a lot about this today, and that's about harnessing tech of the future, we do need to, we need to start looking forward to some of the things Jackie and others have talked about in terms of internet. There's some of the challenges around caring for other people. Some of those, of course, can be brought under control with some of the tech that's there in the future. So if those are the 5 things that local public services organisations can do to cope in the future, what does that actually mean then for us as IT leaders? What do we need to start doing differently? And one of the things I think we need to start doing is start thinking in a shorter time frame. Instead of the sort of ponderous, lengthy, picking up on some of the things that Dominic was saying, instead of the ponderous, lengthy, 2 years for procurement, 3 years to implement, and by the time the system's gone in, it's actually obsolete. We need to take a different approach. I was going to say before, we also need to sort of educate our masters. Our elected members and chief execs now, they all have iPads. They understand the technology, and I don't think it takes much. Maybe Victor can give a contrary view to this, but I think actually expressing the fact that we need a shorter-term approach, that all of this tech that's coming at us very quickly means that we're not going to invest in something in 10 years' time and we see the return. We need short, sharp investment, and we need very quick returns, and that needs a slightly different approach from the one that we've had before. And it's up to us in the IT community to actually champion that and to make sure that everybody understands that. I think, again, picking up on what's been said earlier, I'd say, open. We do need open systems. Without that, you can't get interoperability. You do need open data. That unlocks things going forward. And finally, you need to open. We also need to open our minds to the possibilities that can bring. We just do need any of it. If I was to actually look around this audience and guess the average age, I would say it's probably kind of pushing up the numbers into maybe the 4th or 5th decade, maybe I'm being unfair to people. But we need to get down with the kids. We need to we all understand the power of social media, how that enables us to communicate differently with people. But again, and I think Jackie sort of illustrated for us, anybody out there in the IT community and local government, if you don't have a lexicon of data science, if you don't understand what those concepts are about, then you should do, you need to, because you can't run the kind of services for the future without doing that. I'd say, take a walk on the wild side. The local government IT community is not known for being radical and innovative, and we should be, because we can be, and we're the ones that can make a difference. Okay, I'm not saying take a risk with confidential data, but there are some other areas we don't have to risk data, but we can take a much more risky approach. And I think we have to do it together, and we have to be grown up enough to be able to take some more risks and to do things more quickly. My final exhortation, I suppose, is about the triple helix. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and they said, I don't know what you're on about. And it's probably a term that was coined for something different, actually, which is the power of government, academia, and business working together. And we can do that in the local area. We can take the unique strengths of our own area, liaise with local businesses, work well with academia. We had an example before with Bristol, and certainly that's something we're doing in Cambridgeshire as well. If you don't, how many of you are in touch with IT people working in higher and further education in your area? How many of you are in regular touch with local businesses? If you're not, you should be, because that's one of the ways that we'll cope and that we'll be able to survive and deliver services into the future. I've no idea whether I'm that far, but I guess I am.
Thank you, Noelle.